Thank you for being patient with us here at HR Branches as we maneuver through fun technical difficulties. We were planning on broadcasting this live. Unfortunately, due to who knows what technicality or technical issue, we are unable to do so. We spent about 20 minutes trying to go live. We give up, now we're recording. Today, we are honored and blessed to have some really smart brains join us in understanding the CARES Act and how it applies to your business. Even though we are not live, we will be posting this as a pre-recorded video, but here's the deal. We still want your questions. We want to be able to answer your questions, and I've already gotten an affirmative from our guests today that they will be popping in and answering your questions as you have them. So don't forget to comment below with your questions, comments, concerns, and our experts will be jumping in to answer your questions as you need them. I am Brian Werner with HR Branches, and I also have Leah Walton here with HR Branches. Say hi, Leah.
Hello, good morning.
And we are going to be your hosts today as we maneuver through the CARES Act. Yesterday, at about 3 p.m., I think it was, President Donald Trump signed the CARES Act into law. And this is a stimulus program to help many of us out financially through the COVID crisis. All of us are being impacted financially. And right now, today, we are going to focus on how the CARES Act can help your small business. So we have Christina Gilbertson and Brian Werner here joining us. Christina Gilbertson is the owner of Gilbertson Law Office. Christina, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Rihanna. I'm excited to give a little bit more information to our small business folks out there. There's a lot of changes going on, and whatever we can do to hopefully help them navigate those changes and make sure that they're getting the help that's out there for them, that's my goal.
Love it, love it. Well, thanks for making time for us. We're excited to learn from you today. And then we also have Brian Werner of BRW Tax and Accounting. It's funny, we have the same last name, Brian.
Thank you very much, hon. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our video, and definitely a lot of changes coming and a lot of changes just coming very quickly. So bear with us. I think there's still going to be a lot of guidance that we're going to see over the next coming weeks, but just keep posted, and we'll keep you informed and help you navigate through these, interesting but challenging times.
Well, thanks for joining us, Brian. Brian is the owner of BRW Tax and Accounting. So we have the opportunity right now to get the two distinct views of the legal aspect of this act and the financial and the tax implications of this act. So again, thanks for joining us, and let's go ahead and just dive right into the meat and potatoes. But before we do so, I do want a quick introduction to both of our experts. So Christina, can you tell us a little bit about you and your firm?
Sure. So I have Gilbertson Law Office, and I work with small businesses kind of as an outside counsel and try to do so in a way that is affordable for them. And so I don't do typical hourly billing. My clients, they're either on a subscription or they're in a flat fee, so they know exactly what they're going to be paying to get legal services so that they're not trying to do it themselves and getting misinformation or half information in a lot of cases. And so just being a resource for my clients, and specifically for the small business world, is kind of, it's my passion after being a litigator for a very long time, fixing problems after they start, try to get in front of it now and help my clients stay out of the courtroom if at all possible, and make sure that they're checking all the boxes, doing everything they can to make sure that they're protected from a legal perspective.
Thank you, Christina. You and I have had the pleasure of working together on a few initiatives, and I really enjoy working with you, and what you do for the small business community is just absolutely wonderful. Next up, we have Brian with BRW Tax and Accounting. Brian, give us a little intro about you and what you do.
Yes, hello. I am a CPA, and I'm also the principal owner of BRW Tax and Accounting in beautiful downtown Colorado Springs. We focus on working with small businesses to provide them with relief and to free up their time to be able to focus on what they do best, and that's working within their business and bringing on more sales or customers or clients. So we provide tax and accounting services, bookkeeping. We partner with an outside agency for payroll. So we try to make it all, encompassing when it comes to, we're going to be your quarterback essentially, and you're going to contact us, and we're your main point of contact, and we get you connected with, whatever the small business needs or whatever the owner, needs at that juncture.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Okay. So now here comes the meat and potatoes. I'm going to start off by just having our experts just tell us a little bit about their initial impression of the CARES Act and how it applies to small businesses. So of course, ladies first. Christina, from a legal aspect, what do you see in the CARES Act, and what is the important parts and pieces that small business owners should start considering and thinking about?
Sure. There's been a lot of change in the world and a lot of businesses that have been kind of in that panic stage of, I've got these employees, I don't have business coming through the door. How am I going to pay them? How am I going to keep them around? Am I going to be losing all of my good employees once this thing is all passed? Are they going to move on to something else? And so the CARES Act is the third initiative in a string of financial relief that the federal government is putting into action to help with that specific issue. A lot of it, there's some individual aspects of the CARES Act. I'm going to be focusing, I think our focus today here is primarily on the small business side of things. And so basically it's a way for the government to give direct aid to these small businesses so that they can pay their employees right now. They can avoid having to do mass layoffs. They can continue on and do business as normal as possible, which the new normal is changing every day, but this is a way for the government to actually inject some money into these business owners' hands to help them to keep their business afloat and keep their employees around. So they're changing up a lot of the requirements typically that you see when you're looking to get federal funding as a small business, and making it a lot easier for folks to do that. And I think it's, from a small business perspective, it's fantastic. There's a lot of money that they're throwing in here, and there's a few different ways that small business owners can take advantage of things under the CARES Act. And I don't know how deep you want me to go into it at this point, if you want me to go ahead and just jump right into the different areas, or.
Jump in.
All right. So the businesses that qualify for relief under the CARES Act, basically they need to have been in business as of February 15th of 2020. And they can have up to 500 employees. And so there is a little bit of a caveat for those companies that are in the hospitality, food service, catering, hotel business. If they have multiple locations, as long as they don't have 500 employees in any one location, they can still qualify under the CARES Act, which is, it's a necessary thing that we're dealing with right now. And so I think that it's a good idea that they carve those folks out. And when you're counting your employees, what is an employee under the Act? We're talking about anybody, whether they're full-time, part-time, seasonal, whatever they may be. And one thing that is the CARES Act does is expands upon the definition of an employee under the Families First Act that we talked about a few days ago, where an eligible employee under the new FMLA standards includes an employee that was laid off by the employer on March 1st, 2020 or later. Whereas before, if you weren't working with them as of March 1st, 2020, then it was kind of too bad, so sad. So this does have a little bit of a retroactive effect, because I know a lot of small businesses kind of pulled that trigger. They're like, I don't have a choice. We've got to start doing layoffs now. So the CARES Act definitely gives some retroactivity and kind of give some relief to those folks who were laid off very early in this process, which is fantastic. I think that helps a lot of folks in the current present situation. It also applies to nonprofit organizations and also to independent contractors and sole proprietors, which a lot of times those independent contractors and sole proprietors, they're kind of left out of the discussion when it comes to a lot of these loans. And so again, they're trying to expand this. They know, everybody's kind of in a scary place right now, and they're trying to inject funds wherever it's needed, again, which is fantastic.
Nice. Thanks for that quick introduction. We're going to dive into the details here in a few, and I'll ask a few questions from you. But next up, Brian, why don't you give us a high level from the financial tax perspective on how this impacts small businesses?
Thank you, Brianna. First off, so the immediate relief that we're going, well, when I say immediate, that's immediate when it comes into government terms, but over the next several weeks, we should see the recovery rebates coming to individual taxpayers. So that'll be a $1,200 per adult and $500 per child. There are income thresholds when it comes to that. So if you are a single taxpayer, if you make over $75,000, that rebate does start to phase out. If you're head of household, if you make over $112,500, it starts to phase out at that point. So what that means is anybody that's single and below $75,000 in income, and it's going to be based upon several years of tax returns, essentially. So if you haven't filed your 2019 yet, they're going to base it off of 2018. If you have filed 2019, they're going to base it off of 2019. Now, if you make too much money in 2019 and you're impacted by this virus in 2020, then you may actually qualify for the rebate when you file your 2020 tax return. So it's not too straightforward, but it sounds like the majority of Americans are going to see some type of payment under the recovery rebate. For your married filing jointly, folks, it's going to be if you make over $150,000, then it starts to phase out. So anybody that's below $150,000 in income and you filed married filing joint, you will see the recovery rebate coming. Different types of payment methods. So if you've already filed tax returns and the IRS, the Department of Treasury, has your direct deposit information on file, they are actually going to direct deposit the money. So one day you may look at your bank account and there it is, just like magic. If you don't have your direct deposit information on file with the IRS, the Department of Treasury, then they will more than likely, they're going to mail you a check. So that's going to be kind of the immediate relief just to pretty much the entire country, as long as you fall below those income levels. The next one is more focused on our retirees. So for our retirees, they're going to be waiving the, or folks that have, lost their job and they're not quite at retirement, they're going to waive the 10% early withdrawal penalty. So if you're under the age 60 and you need to take money out of your retirement account, like a 401k plan or an IRA, they will allow you to do that penalty free. There will be, the withdrawal amounts will be taxable, but it's going to be spread over 3 years. So it is going to spread that tax impact out to those folks that need to tap into those retirement funds just to be able to, pay their everyday bills. For the small business folks, we've got some refundable payroll tax credits. The federal government wants to incentivize the small businesses to maintain their workforce. Even if your operations have been halted, you've had to close down, your brick and mortar, and there's not a whole lot that the employees can do from a remote aspect. The federal government still wants to give you that temporary reprieve to keep those folks on board. So they're going to give you a 50% refundable payroll tax credit on wages paid up to $10,000. There are some caps when it comes to the size of the business and how many employees. We'll get, if anyone has any particular questions pertaining to their specific business, we can definitely address those. The employer side of the Social Security payroll taxes may be delayed until January 1st, 2021. So that sounds like, to me, it's probably going to work through your payroll systems. So you can delay those taxes, and 50% would be due on December 31st of 2021. And then the other half is going to be due on December 31st, 2022. So they are providing some payroll tax relief as well to the small businesses that, keep their workforce intact. And then for our distillery folks or any manufacturers out there that have had to, they've had their operations impacted and they've decided to, go ahead and start putting out hand sanitizer, they are going to provide a relief for the excise tax that's usually applied to anybody that produces alcohol. So that's just for tax year 2020.
Whew, that's a lot of complexity to, our financial situation and our taxes. Thanks for that high level. Let's go ahead and address these SBA loans and these forgiveness programs. There's a lot to that for small businesses. And SBA came out, and I believe the state of Colorado has been approved, for about a week and a half, 2 weeks now, for the emergency disaster relief loans through the SBA. Right now, these loans are sitting at 3.75%, and you can apply for these loans directly through the SBA. Our local SBDC, the Pikes Peak SBDC, is able to help you and have people on standby willing and able to help you too. However, what we're learning through the CARES Act is that some of these SBA loans will now become forgivable, and there's also a $10,000 grant aspect in these loans. Can you guys talk about these loans and how they're working with this new component of the CARES Act?
Sure. So I'll touch on the emergency grant first. So as you mentioned, it's a $10,000 emergency grant, cash advance that can be forgiven if it's spent on paid leave, maintaining your payroll, or increased costs due to your supply chain disruption, mortgage or lease payments, or repaying obligations that can't be met due to revenue losses. And so it's kind of a big catch-all loan that can be turned around very quickly. And it's the requirements to get those loans or those grants are, again, the requirements are minimized, and a lot of the restrictions previously on those types of loans, on the EIDL loans, have been lessened or removed altogether. And so as long as you're using that grant money for one of the allowable purposes, as you mentioned, they will be forgivable. And I'm sure that there's some tax components and hoops you have to jump through there. But from a legal perspective, a lot of these changes are pretty straightforward, and for once, it's actually making things easier for folks instead of it's trying to remove some of the red tape that we're used to. And so that, I think, I get a little bit of a reprieve on this one. And I think a lot of the heavy lifting falls in Brian's lap, unfortunately, from the CARES Act interpretation. So I'm going to step on any toes there.
Makes perfect sense. A couple things to note with these loans is, first and foremost, these loans are not to infuse into your business as an investment. You cannot use these funds to add products, services, boost any type of business operation. It is purely for your basic bills.
Operation.
Thank you. Operating costs.
Yeah,
Thank
it's not
you.
a stimulus package, it's a relief package. It's very different. And so that's, a lot of people may not realize that, but yeah, it's exactly as you said. It's not to change anything. It's just to cover what was already in place and keep you afloat.
Exactly. And on top of that, do you guys know, has there been any guidance released on the people who have already applied for an SBA disaster relief loan? Will they become eligible for this $10,000 grant or these forgiveness programs?
Yes, let me find that. As long as they can be rolled into these programs if they've already applied, and if it's something that they already have the loan in hand, then the same forbearance and delays and a lot of the forgiveness still will apply retroactively for a lot of those. I'm sure there are some limitations on those, but I'm not sure what those specifically are. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know what the specific limitations on those are, but there is that retroactivity where it does fall under the same, under the CARES Act.
Okay.
Yeah, I do know that they're to stabilize your operations. So you can cover payroll, benefits, including health insurance. You can also cover your rent that may be coming due, or I even saw mortgage. I didn't see any, what that means, but maybe if you own a commercial building or, and then maybe, you're paying, you have your business in that building as well. I think there might be some limitations when it comes to that. I think that's one of those areas where when I saw it would cover mortgage payments for the business, I said, well, I don't know if that means like loan payments in general, or so I think there will probably be some additional guidance coming out here over the next couple days and coming weeks. And some of these gray areas will start to, become ungray at that point, more black and white, and we'll be able to, be able to provide more concrete, advisement when it comes to some of these areas that we've only been able to, interpret for the last 18 hours at this juncture.
Hey, Brian, while I have you on the line, you've been helping a number of small businesses through the loan application as an accountant, gathering the information that they need, providing them with the financial reporting, as well as filing their taxes for 2019 for them. Can you help our viewers understand exactly what they need to apply for one of these SBA loans, what information they should compile, so they can be prepared to file for an SBA loan?
Well, I definitely can't give you the all-encompassing list just because, I'm not, affiliated with the SBA. We have been working in coordination with the SBDC, which, conveniently is located right across the street from our offices. But just to give you some kind of general ideas of what they're going to be looking at, they are going to want to see some type of financial statement, so a profit and loss, and a balance sheet, probably for the last 2 to 3 years, including 2019. They're going to want to see corporate tax returns, or, if you're self-employed, sole proprietor, they're going to want to see individual tax returns, more than likely both for, our S corporations and partnerships that we work very closely with. And they're more than likely going to want to see 2019. So we've been making a very strong push to try to get as many of our small business tax returns completed for 2019, so we're not the ones that are holding up this process, why they may be, experiencing some tight financial times due to the, economic climate that we're currently experiencing. They're gonna be looking at, various IRS transcript release forms. They are going to want to see some type of personal financial statement, which a lot of people don't have one of those on hand, and that's definitely something we can assist with. But essentially what a personal financial statement is it's going to list out all of your assets, including your homes and your investment accounts and, your checking and savings accounts, pretty much anything that you own, cars, there could be, if you have any high-priced art or jewelry or whatever you have on hand. And then it's also going to take into account what your liabilities are, how much you owe on your home, if you have any medical debt or credit card debt, if you have a car loan. So, and then what we're essentially arriving at is if you have positive net worth or negative net worth. So they're going to want to look at, kind of where you are from a personal financial standpoint as well. I'm sure there's probably a slew of other documents. I mean, we are talking the SBA, so I'm sure there's probably a lot more that I'm not, that I'm not remembering off the top of my head right now, but we'll definitely keep you apprised, and probably we'll work on building out kind of more of a comprehensive list. I'm sure we could probably reach out to the folks at the SBDC and maybe kind of get, some type of laundry list so we have, a little bit more better, understanding of what's going to be expected. So there's no surprises during the application, because then we can get the application, the application get processed a lot more efficiently.
And I think it's my understanding that the SBA doesn't necessarily know everything that they want as of yet. And so it's my understanding that they will be within 15 days of enactment, which was yesterday, they'll be issuing some regulations that kind of outline the process for the application. And so definitely more information is coming on that. We're getting that a lot is here's the law, and we'll tell you how to jump through the hoops later, but here's what's coming down the pike. So just stay tuned for that. For sure.
Really good point. Really good point, Christina. I know I was listing the items that was based upon the Coronavirus Act that just came out, because there was some SBA loan programs that came out with that. I'm sure they'll probably be pretty similar, but that's a really good point. We really don't know at this juncture. So,
well, we have 15 days to learn more and more and more about this program and how it applies to all of us. But for the time being, so we have our financial documentation, our information, and we're ready to hit the ground running and apply for this loan. I had mentioned earlier, you apply directly through the SBA. Are there any other resources that you guys are aware of that our viewers should be reaching out to outside of their legal counsel and their accounting or their accountant? Is there anybody else they should be working closely with?
As Brian mentioned, the SBDC does have a lot of resources. Pikes Peak SBDC has a link right on their website when you first go on to it, so definitely be in contact with them. That's a definitely big one for me, I think.
Okay. And then for those folks, again, who have laid off workforce, they're still eligible to apply, correct?
Correct. Yes. So they can absolutely, even if you had people that were laid off after March 1st because of all of this, the loan forgiveness, there's an exception where they can still have the loan forgiven if they have a lowering of their workforce now, as long as they raise their workforce again by the current date is June 30th of 2020. So right now they understand that it may be difficult, but as long as you kind of get those numbers back up and you get your employees back on board, then you can still qualify and get that exception under the forgiveness aspect of the loans. But everybody can apply. That's certainly, there's going to be a number of different things that the SBA is considering, but they're trying to be proactive and make it easier for the businesses to get the money that they need. And so everybody knows that there's been a lot of knee-jerk reactions and a lot of people just kind of doing everything they can to stay afloat, and a lot of cuts have been made. So they definitely want to let people know that it's okay if you've already done that. There's ways that we can still kind of get you back under the protection of these new acts.
Great. So when it comes to these disaster relief loans and grants and these forgiveness programs, is there any other information our viewers need to know or consider as they're maneuvering through this process? We've kind of beaten it.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say definitely just stay tuned in to any, further communications from, both of our offices, because I think there's going to be a lot more data that comes out, and there's going to be a lot more guidance that comes out. And I know there's going to be a slew of things that we're going to have to wait on the IRS for a little bit more clarity on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just kind of staying in tune with, whatever resources that we're going to be sending out, and then just letting us know your questions. I'm sure our viewers have tons of questions, and that's what we're here for. We're here to serve.
Absolutely. And I think that it's important to note that there are these different pieces of these acts. So you've got the payroll protection program, which is specifically aimed at payroll issues. You have these EIDL, emergency disaster loans, and the grants that can be used for a broader array of things. You've got the FMLA stuff under the leave and paid sick leave. You can take advantage of multiple different programs that are out there right now, but there can't be any double dipping. So you just need to make sure that you're clear that if you get an emergency grant for $10,000 and you're using that for, say, payroll, you can't then also use another $10,000 for that same payroll that you've already paid. So there are a lot of different areas out there, but you just can't double dip. You can stack them and do different things and jump through the hoops if you qualify for the different programs. But you just want to be mindful that you're not using different money for the same exact relief issue for you.
Christina, you brought up a really good point that I think is a worthwhile conversation here really quick, is with these SBA disaster relief loans, the initial number that you request is your number, and you can't go back to the well either. So you have to be very thoughtful about the requested amount. Do either of you guys have any recommendations on how our viewers calculate their request dollars?
I see it for the Paycheck Protection Program side of it. So the regulations for that is that a business can borrow 2.5 times their monthly payroll expenses up to a maximum of $10 million. And so that obviously a lot of our small businesses are probably going to be pretty low, pretty far underneath that maximum, but there are some restrictions that you can't calculate into that. So if you have anybody who's on your payroll that their salary is above $100,000 a year, you can't count them towards that calculation. And similarly, if you've got sick leave wages under the Family First Act, that doesn't calculate into that 2.5% or 2.5 times calculation either. So I think that there's going to be more clarification as to how to better calculate, make sure you're calculating the right amount of dollars. And certainly somebody like Brian is probably going to be your best resource for that, but just know that there are some legal limits, and so there are some very clear restrictions and limitations on what you can use when you're doing those calculations.
Makes sense. Brian, do you have anything to add to that conversation?
I'm not sure if we hit on the federal unemployment expansion yet, so just wanted to mention that. I can't remember if Christina, hit on that, but they are expanding the federal unemployment insurance, and actually, once again, like Rhiannon had mentioned before, or it was Christina, about how sometimes our self-employed folks or our gig workers or our freelancers are kind of left out to dry. Well, there is some relief coming. So if your business is your self-employed business has been impacted, or if you're just a freelancer and you've been impacted by this virus, they are going to expand the federal unemployment insurance. They are going to add in an additional $600 per week up to 4 months. And it's based upon how much money you normally earn. Of course, there's a calculation. And then we're still waiting on the states on whether the states are going to expand their coverage to the self-employed and the freelancers and the gig workers.
Which is really great relief. So what our viewers can expect as far as that unemployment relief is, if you've been laid off, of course you qualify for unemployment. But if you are a gig worker, an independent contractor, or a business owner, and your business has been impacted, say for an example, closed down, a number of hair salons have been closed down. A lot of hair salons are operated by independent contractors. And so if you're unable to work, you can, underneath the CARES Act, file for unemployment. But we do have to wait for guidance from the state. Is that what you're saying, Brian?
Yes, we're not sure, because normally in the past, the states have not covered the self-employed folks or the freelancers. So this is completely brand new just at the federal level. So we'll have to sit and wait and see what the states decide to do over the next probably coming weeks.
And that's true with a lot of things right now. The states are kind of lagging behind a few days. They want to see what the feds are going to do, and then they'll see what, if anything, they need to do to expand on that. So definitely more to come in that realm.
That makes perfect sense. And for all of you who are not aware of this, each state runs their own unemployment program. And so it is very dependent on the state, not the feds, how your unemployment program is executed. For an example, Colorado is very different from Texas. And so if you are watching this, we're talking a lot of Colorado stuff here. So look at your local unemployment office, reach out to them and get the specifics of the programs that are available through your unemployment. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that was really important to address, Brian. Let me see here.
Can I pop in real quick and just ask a question that I think employers may want to know is, Christina, you mentioned that on payroll, if you have an employee that is above 100,000, can you claim up to 100,000, or you have to exclude them altogether?
That is one of those unclear pieces of it from where I'm sitting right now. It's just saying, well, actually, I think it is, program funds cannot be used for people with in excess of an annual salary of 100,000. So I still think you can go up to that 100,000. That's, I believe, how it works, but it's not as clear as one would like it to be. I think it's another one of those we're going to learn a little bit more and they'll clarify that. There's been a lot of, hey, let me clarify this little piece that we realized wasn't as artfully drafted as we intended it to be. So.
And I'm seeing the same thing. I'm on the Tax Foundation site, and it once again, it's really open to interpretation at this point. So I think that'll be one gray area that they're going to have to give us a little bit more, a little bit more concrete guidelines on.
Good deal, you guys. All right, what else do we need to address as far as the CARES Act?
I think we've hit, from my perspective, I think we've hit pretty much everything big.
Yeah, the only other thing that I see here that might help out some folks, if you had what are called net operating losses, so if your business loses money or has lost money in 2018, 2019, or 2020, we can now carry those losses back 5 years and recover overpaid taxes. So I think businesses that are severely impacted, or maybe they were even starting to, get started up in 19, but maybe they had a big income year back in 16. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities to be able to recover and put some cash into people's pockets when it comes to the particular tax situation. So that's going to be kind of one of those. It depends on your circumstances, but there could be some tremendous opportunities to recover a lot of overpaid taxes that you've paid in the past.
Well, that's great news. And you mentioned looking backwards, but also looking forwards. I mean, the 2020 tax is going to be a lot more complex due to this legislation. I would imagine you're looking forward thinking there's a lot more complexity to your tax situation with all of these initiatives. Can you talk about really briefly what people can expect for their 2020 filings and what they can do to prepare and stay organized to make sure that their accountants aren't raking them through the coals in their fees because of the complexity?
Well, at this point, I think it's so early. I'm not exactly sure. I have a feeling that, yes, there is going to be some additional work that's going to be required when, with filing a corporate tax return, there's going to be a little added complexity, but I believe that the added complexity will provide tremendous tax savings, tremendous benefits to the taxpayer. So it's going to be well worth it. But I think I'll have a better handle on that, especially, at this point, there's no new draft forms that have come out. There's kind of more just higher level, data that we're looking at. So I think over the coming weeks and even coming months, we'll have a much better handle on, how much more compliance is there going to be when it comes to, some of these new tax credits and tax benefits that are being provided through the CARES Act.
Thank you for that. You guys, I appreciate you guys joining us here on this video. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I was really hoping we could go live so we could get some live questions. And I am sure this is going to generate a decent amount of questions from our viewers. So can you please do me a favor and tell everybody, starting with Christina, how they can get a hold of you to answer any questions, and if you do offer any type of free consultation or anything, this would be a good time to mention that so they know.
Absolutely, and I do offer free consultations for small business clients, and so what I'll do is once this is posted, I will put a link in the comments so you can just schedule right there directly, so it's super easy for you. You can also reach me on my website is Gilbertsonlawoffice.com, or you can shoot me an email at Christina@Gilbertson Law Office, and also give me a call at 720-525-9275.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, Brian, can you let everybody know how to get a hold of you?
Yes, so we're currently offering a free 30-minute consult to discuss if your business has been impacted by this virus. So you can get in touch with us via www.brwtax.com. You can email me at Brian, B-R-I-A-N, at brwtax.com, or you can call our office line, 719-358-2360. We're here to assist whoever is, just needing some ideas, maybe some fresh ideas. The way I look at this is, yes, it's a challenging business environment, but there's also tremendous opportunities as well. And sometimes it may take a change in your business model, or it may just take a couple fresh new ideas that sometimes when people are faced with a little bit of doom and gloom, or they're looking at their cash flow dwindling, sometimes they have a tendency to maybe freeze up and say, this is it, and it doesn't need to be it. So give us a call, and you'd be surprised, what we can provide. We'll be able to provide tremendous value, and we want to save as many jobs and as many businesses out there as possible. So feel free to get in touch with us.
Thank you so much to both of you for joining us today. Leah, thank you for helping facilitate everything. Until next time, we are here to support you, filtering you information as this coronavirus pandemic unfolds and impacts small businesses. We are dedicated to being your conduit of information, and we won't just stop here. But I gotta say, hopefully this is our last major piece of legislation. I'm tired, and I'm sure all of you guys are tired too.
Unfortunately, I've heard inklings that there might be another wave coming, so.
Well, good thing we've got you to keep us abreast of everything, Christina.
We'll get through it all.
All right. All right, everybody. Well, hopefully you guys can rest well this weekend, and know that we are here working hard for you to provide you with the information and the relief that you need. Call us, contact us, reach out in any way that you can, and we will be here to serve you. Until next time, this is Rihanna. Signing.